In today's episode, I speak with the man who has dedicated his life to one subject, the role of nutrition in healthcare. Today, I'm speaking with nutritionist and best-selling author Dale Pinnock, the Medicinal Chef. How are you today, mate?
I'm good. Yeah, obviously, like we were due to do this a few days ago, and I'm kind of tail end of the lurgy, but now I'm firing on all cylinders and ready to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't envy you. Being sick is at best an inconvenience.
Yes.
A massive one. So you feeling much better, or do you know what it was? Any idea?
Oh, there's some weird stuff going around. Yeah, it was just a cold. It was nothing major. I'm just being a big wet blanket. That's all.
Listen, for those that haven't come across your work yet, do you want to tell people a bit about yourself?
Yes, I mean, I've been in the nutrition industry for 30 years now, which is quite a sobering thought. Literally, since I left school, I went straight into it. Like working in the supplement industry, working in health stores, working in clinical practice, actually putting together people's prescriptions and stuff like that. And I have been obsessed with it since I was 15. So that was even longer ago. And yeah, so I ended up actually going and studying it. I was so immersed in it. I was like, this is where I want my life to go. This is the direction I want to go in. But I actually want to work as a practitioner. I actually want to understand this stuff at a deep level. So I did my first degree in human nutrition, did a second degree in herbal medicine, and then did a master's in nutritional medicine at Surrey. And I've also been cooking all my life as well. So, although weirdly, I tend to do a lot less with food these days. I've kind of moved past that a little bit, just because I was doing it for so bloody long, I got bored. But yeah, I've been cooking all my life. So for a long time, when I was really doing this whole medicinal chef thing, it seemed creating recipes around the specific subject matter that I was teaching seemed the most obvious delivery vehicle for the information. Because if you're talking about food, you want to bring food into the equation. And that's where the whole medicinal chef thing came from. It's just like, okay, so if you're working with someone that's got cardiovascular disease or type 2 diabetes or osteoarthritis, you can tweak their diet in specific ways. You can actually put together dietary protocols for them to follow that's going to be relevant and targeted for their specific health concerns. And that's where that whole medicinal chef thing came from. And yeah, like I say, I've been doing this for 30 years now. I've written 20 books on the subject, working on 21 at the minute.
Wow.
I've done a lot of stuff in the media. So I did a series on ITV called Eat, Shop, Save. We did that for 5 years. A lot of stuff on This Morning, Lorraine, Good Morning Britain, a lot of radio as well. So I used to do Steve Wright in the afternoon, bless him, on Radio 2. So I did that many times. Had some fun on there. Chris Evans, all of that kind of stuff. So I've been really immersed in it for a long time. Yeah. And my real love, the thing that kind of animates me is breaking down what is essentially a very, very complex subject and explaining it to people in a way that they just like, that makes perfect sense. I can do that now. Because I think certainly, especially with the the influence of social media on things, a lot of people are just completely and utterly confused. There's so much information. Most of it is bollocks, by the way. Coming at people from all directions. They're completely confused. They don't know what to eat. They don't know what to do. So I like to just kind of get away from all of that. Take them back to basics. Say, look, if you focus on these things, break down that complex subject and teach it to them in a way that they can fully grasp it. And so as long as you're focusing on those key things, you're probably going to be getting everything right. And
that's exactly what drew me to you. Is exactly that. Clearly, you're educated. You've done all these degrees. You've done everyone's degrees by the sound of it. There you go, you're stacking them up there. But also, you're exactly right. You do explain it in a way which people can understand. I did when I did my degree. I had a lecturer, and I'm now convinced that his sole purpose was to convince everyone in the room that he was smarter than them, and that was it. That was all he was there to do. He was never really that helpful, unfortunately. I won't say who it is in case he listens, but it's that happens a lot on social media. People will tell you what you're doing wrong, you know, and they'll buy into one thing and they'll push that. Whereas what I can see with you and what I admire about you is that you take this holistic approach and you include everything and you put it in a nice, easy to understand way without making anyone feel patronized or scolding anyone for making mistakes. And I really admire that approach.
Listen, because trust me, I've made plenty of mistakes in my life.
Sure, yeah.
We've all fucked up, right? So why have our noses rubbed in it? Why not have people that can actually help us out of the woods?
Yeah,
just be like, totally normal, totally fine. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And
you see it so often. And one thing that you said there was really, really important, that sometimes people buy into one single thing. Like, you've got to be carnivore. If you don't do anything else, you're going to die. Like, you know, keto, that's the only thing you could possibly do. As someone that studied the subject, all of this is relevant and none of it's relevant, right? For me, because first and foremost, like you see like up there on the wall, first and foremost, I'm a clinical practitioner. I started my career sitting down one-to-one with patients that have got a whole cocktail, a whole host of different pathologies and issues that we have to work through. If I came to that session with a single approach in mind, I would basically be committing malpractice. Okay, because you have to work with each individual. You have to see what an individual is presenting with, and then you pull on this. You use the whole armory that you have available to you. For some people, it could be a more ketogenic diet. Other people need this. Other people need that. Whatever. You pull on everything. You pull on the totality of this knowledge base to create something that is going to be relevant to that single person. And that's the difference. That's the real big issue.
I absolutely love that. When I worked as a PT, a lot of the time people would ask me what supplements they should take. And my first question would be, well, do you know what you're deficient in? You know, do you understand what your intolerances are? All of these things are really important. And the only way you're going to find that is through some testing and speaking to a professional. I wasn't that, you know. I'm not going to sit there as a PT and say, oh, yeah, these are the exercises, this is the diet. And by the way, take all these supplements. I mean, yeah, there's some easy wins, some multivitamins, some probiotics, prebiotics, all that sort of stuff.
It's
but
pretty hard to do someone damage with a multivit.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, it's like, you know, how do I know that?
Nutrients. Yeah, standalone individual nutrients, like high doses of specific nutrients, can completely knock out a specific pathway. There's certain things that can influence the half-life of drugs. There's certain things that can be drug agonists and antagonists. So, you know, there is a lot to it.
And that's such an important message, is that individualization of your nutrition, that if anyone takes anything from this entire conversation that we haven't yet had, it should be that individualization. I mean, when people talk about nutrition, quite often their focus is on weight loss. Right. That's what they're talking about. So people might tune in and go, okay, this guy's going to talk about nutrition, he's going to teach me how to lose weight. And that may or may not be important. Really. Well, this is it. And it may or may not be important. But for you, what makes nutrition a major consideration? What is it about it?
Okay, so I mean, of course, sometimes patients come to me because they want to lose weight, and you know, depending on, I mean, I'm not a massive fan of the calorie model as it stands. I was because I mean, certainly you'll know this as a PT. So many PTs are fixated on fat. Well, it's just calories in, calories out. So well, yeah, if you're dealing with kind of 20 somethings that are healthy, a mild calorie deficit is all it takes for them just to be straight in shape, because their bodies are healthy. They're using fuel really, really effectively. They've not got this this tidal wave of metabolic disease that's actually affecting older adults. But when you're dealing with older adults, that calorie model starts to fall down, because if their thyroid's underperforming, it doesn't matter if they're in deficit, they're not using fuel. And so that's that whole minefield about weight loss. But as I say, it's not my area of interest. It's not something I particularly talk about a great deal. I have got a weight loss, a metabolic health program that incorporates weight loss. But for me, my area of interest, I mean, I guess you would say my specialist area would be metabolic health, but for me, it's about how nutrition can be used as a tool for disease prevention or management, or indeed as a therapeutic intervention in the same way that any other kind of healthcare intervention would work. Okay. So I work very, very closely with a lot of GPs in my local area. I get loads of referrals from them and stuff, because they're acutely aware that, okay, most of the patients that come through the door that are chronically ill, the prescriptions they're getting are stopping them from dying prematurely, but they're not actually reversing anything that's going on. They understand that it's lifestyle interventions that have the biggest impact. And that's what I'm really interested in. It's like, okay, you've got cardiovascular disease. Are you just going to live your life on statins and carry on eating Mackie D's? Or should we like, okay, like, you know, your doctor's put you on statins for a reason. Let's not go there. That's their territory. That's not for me to tell you to do or not to do. But how about the other side? How about what you're eating?
Yeah.
First, I'm going to educate you about the impact that your diet's going to have on every conceivable cardiovascular marker, on your blood pressure, on vascular function, on endothelial health, on blood lipids, on cholesterol, on inflammation. I'm going to teach you all of that picture so that you understand the full picture of cardiovascular disease and how nutrition relates to it. Then I'm going to be looking at what you're eating at the minute. I'm going to say, right, look, this could be contributing to that aspect of it. If you change that for that, you're going to be able to have an influence on that. Build this whole picture, this whole nutrition picture that they can actually start to incorporate, that will work alongside any other therapeutic intervention and will have just as powerful an impact as any other therapeutic intervention. Okay, it might not be like, bang, acutely powerful like a pharmaceutical will be, but it will change physiology just as much. And that's what really tickles my pickle when it comes to nutrition. Let's put it that way. You know, the whole
and
thing
you can
is
see
just
that.
like, you know, just best phrase ever. That's that, you know, that whole thing with weight loss, I just find it boring. Do you know what I mean? And also, I just hate the fucking tribalism and all the nonsense. You know, like you dare to question the calorie model. You know, with 30 years in the industry and three degrees, and you dare question it and put an alternative hypothesis or deviate slightly away from the allowed narrative of, you know, calories in, calories out, then that whole thing just doesn't interest me. So
it's very dividing, isn't it? It's a very dividing notion because, like you just said, it comes down to individualization, and then you take one concept, model, whatever you want to call it, and you can't do that. You can't apply it to everything. It won't work.
The funniest thing is, and I don't mean this with any disrespect to anyone, but this is just purely a statement of fact. The ones that are arguing against it are the ones that are not necessarily specialists in that area. You know, so it's gonna be a lot of the trainers and stuff like that. It's just like, right, okay, if we're talking about Lane or someone like that, that's like PhD or something, cool, fine. But when you know, because like, I mean, on Diary of a CEO not so long ago, we had Giles Yeo, you know, Cambridge University professor, Professor Tim Spector as well, both questioning the calorie model. And you see all of the bros in the comments, and it's just like, and it's like, yeah, honestly, yeah, you know, what the hell would a nutrition professor know about the subject? Seriously, I agree, man. I mean, come on. And that's the other thing that drives me mad. You can't have that sensible conversation and discourse around it.
No debate.
It has to be this instant tribalism. So I'm just like, I'll leave it to them. Yeah, you have fun. You go fight in the corner. I'm dealing with people that are sick.
Yeah,
really different realms.
Yeah, and I mean, I love what you said at the beginning about medication having its place. You know, it does. Obviously, same thing with antidepressants. You know, you have to deal with the symptoms at the beginning, but it's not going to be part of the cure. That medication is like a crutch. If you break your leg and you need a crutch until you're strong enough to get back on your feet, but there's some rehab that needs to be done for that leg to be in working order again. Yeah,
but also,
no, and
I think I mean, certainly with a lot of pharmaceutical intervention, modern medicine is at its best in acute emergency. You know, if I walk down the road and get hit by a bus, I don't want to see broccoli. I want morphine, and I want loads of it. I want shitloads, right? Absolutely. I want to be going into surgery. I don't want someone waving a crystal over me. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like, but when you're working with lifestyle diseases, I mean, and let's face it, the things that are burdening the healthcare system are lifestyle diseases. You know, I mean, now that all of the COVID circus is out the way, you look at the things that are the pressure in the healthcare system the most, when we're not talking about strikes and all the rest of it, it is obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and many preventable cancers that are all related to lifestyle. This is not finger wagging. This is not pointing and saying, oh, well, people are making themselves sick. People just don't understand the interaction, or they haven't got much choice. But these are, in essence, lifestyle-derived conditions. And they need to be treated with lifestyle interventions. So it's understanding how different areas of the healthcare picture will require different interventions. And I think that's where modern medicine is failing. But the pharmaceutical industry are having an absolute party.
Yeah.
I mean, for them, these people, that's their customer. There's no money in healthy people, and there's no money in dead people. No. There's money in the people that are just kind of coasting through life that require 10 or more of their products.
But I think what you're talking about mainly there is that education is like giving people the knowledge so that they can make informed choices. Because at the moment they're just going with, one of the problems that I often have, I don't speak a lot about it because, again, I can't be bothered with the divisiveness, is that we're getting people that are pushing products under the guise of education. And that's what worries me. So someone saying, hey, that this thing's going to fix you. Like in the fitness industry, quite often they'll create a problem for somebody that they then offer the solution to. Like, you're overweight when maybe they're not. And it's like, well, if you do this, and this, you'll have a six-pack. Well, why do I need a six-pack? That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's, to me, it's about that education from chaps like yourself who are looking at the situation holistically, who are looking at it from an individual perspective with lots of caveats, like this might work if this is going on, but we need to do this test, find out this information so we can move forward with it. And that's the shift that needs to happen. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to, because that doesn't work en masse when it comes to, everyone should do this, everyone should do that. I can't sell you that. I can't sell you that if I can't prescribe it to everybody.
Yeah.
But I mean,
one of the things I will say, like I say, I've had a 30-year career, right? Whilst those kind of divisive, one-size-fits-all, extreme kind of approaches may get you a short span of attention, and they'll get, they'll get you your 5 minutes in the sun, but they won't give you longevity. I'm the person people come to when they're sick of that shit.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just what I'm saying, I suppose, is it's a shame that the way that you do things isn't pushed. But I suppose that's the culture we live in, with 90-second TikToks and reels attention spans.
I used to worry about that. I used to worry about that, and I used to get disheartened by that, but not anymore. Because I've got a tribe of people that I work with. I have so many people that are sort of coming into my world that, I mean, I don't care if no one's talking about me on TV or whatever anymore. I don't care. That's because great. The people that need my help are finding me.
Yeah, that's true integrity.
And as soon as I just relaxed, I was just like, I'm going to put stuff out that matters on all of my channels. I'm going to put it out on YouTube, and the people that need my help are going to find me. And that's exactly as it's happened, and it's really accelerated.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Which is fantastic.
Yeah. And, I love that.
And that's the cool thing. It's like, with persistence, if you can just do things like, because you were talking about people pushing products and stuff. By the way, sometimes I'll do bits of brand work, but it's really rare. It's really, 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 really rare. And you know what? Especially one thing that I've been working with at the minute, because it's like a CGM. People have been losing their shit because they're throwing their toys out the pram. Because if you're not diabetic, why do you need one? It's like, well, that's missing the point. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. I could show people a paper trail where I've been offered 6 figures to promote crap, and I'll never do it. I've turned it down. I will show you a paper trail of hundreds of things that I'm just like, no, not interested. I've always been like, I've always wanted to position myself as like someone that you can trust not to bullshit you. I'll always tell you when I don't know. If I don't know, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I'm not the man for that job. Sorry if you tried this person. I'm always open as open as I can possibly be. And in the short term, that doesn't, that doesn't get people any wins, and people get disheartened. And that's when they start jumping on these things. But in the long term, it's like, to quote Gary Vaynerchuk, it's winning in the macro and losing in the micro. too many people, they lose in the micro because when they have that neutrality and they're just an open book and they're just, you know, being straight down the line in what they do, people are like, nah, not interested. But when they see, you know, someone walking around a supermarket saying how terrible everything on the shelf is, then they find it funny, and it's all about the click. But okay, what about 10 years from there? The person that's still consistent with that same messaging, they're the person that's still there because they're the person that people trust. And I always come to everything that I do, every post that I create, every answer that I have to a question, I kind of come at it as like someone's practitioner. You know, it's like someone's walked through the door and they put that amount of faith in you. And also, like, I kind of think about all of the things that this career has given me in my life. I have a moral obligation to do things in a certain way.
I love that
because
wording.
I wouldn't have the life that I have without this career, and I wouldn't have the career that I have without the people that have actually had faith in me. So, yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, and that integrity just goes through everything you do. I'd agree with that, you know, totally. And that's why I'm speaking to you, because I want to find out what's true. You know, that's what I am. I'm a coach and I help people, but what I ultimately am is a truth seeker. I'm looking for what's true. I'm not looking to be right or wrong or be a guru, or everyone say, "Oh, right, Johnny, you're really smart." I just care about what's true, and I'm happy to be wrong. You know, happy to be wrong if it means we find out the truth. But I mean, how can nutrition impact your mental health? Because this is a big thing at the moment. There's a lot of, I hesitate to say easy wins, but I think you know what I mean when I say it. There are some easy wins, you know, like the Haribos, for example, stuff like that. You know, it's like there's some easy wins, some easy choices that we can make. But what would be the most impactful changes that you could make to your diet, do you feel, that would help with mental health?
Well, you mentioned Haribo. Probably one of the best things that you could do is get off the blood sugar roller coaster. Yeah. So things like the refined carbohydrates. And that doesn't mean I'm not saying go Atkins or anything like that. Enjoy carbs, just good healthy ones. So the things like the white bread, white rice, white pasta, refined flour products, pastries, sugary drinks, sweets, the crap, ultra processed junk, because that's going to push your blood glucose up really, really high. And I mean, we could talk for hours about the damage that will do to metabolic health, but in the context of your mental health, obviously it's like all of a sudden getting an injection of rocket fuel, and like you get that sugar rush and everything feels great. But because the way in which your body responds to that glucose spike, you know, because blood glucose, there's very, very tight parameters. The one thing that our body is always pushing for is homeostasis. We're always looking to find that balance, that equilibrium. Blood glucose that's too high or too low, both of these are potentially life-threatening states. So the body's very, very effective at making sure blood glucose remains within, unless people are diabetic or metabolically ill, of course. But, you know, in normal situations, the body's very effective at ensuring that it stays within those tight parameters. And when it shoots up, when you eat that processed crap, you're going to release loads and loads of insulin. Insulin's going to bind to an insulin receptor and open up a glucose transporter, and your cells are going to take up all that glucose. If you get a massive rush of glucose, you get a massive rush of insulin. So you feel great, and then all of a sudden, bang, blood sugar crashes back down again. And that kind of variable, that gradient between the sugar high and what follows, when you dip, that can make your mood crash as well. That can start to affect your neurochemistry. That can make you feel, and especially if you're prone to things like depression, for example. If you're prone to depression and all of a sudden your blood glucose is through the floor, I mean, it's literally feeling like you're trying to pull yourself through your day anyway. If you are in a depressive state, it's just going to exacerbate it. Getting off the processed food. Then one of the best things that you could possibly do is increase your intake of long-chain omega-3 fatty acids. Absolute mouthful. Basically, it's the type of fats that you find in things like oily fish, or that you'd have to get in a supplement. Now, here's a little thing. Gotta have this little soapbox moment. Sorry about this.
Go on, go for it.
You know, so basically, people talk about omega-3. Omega-3 isn't one single substance. It's an entire family of fatty acids. ALA, EPA, DHA, DPA, right? Out of those four, there's only two that can be used in human physiology and that deliver all of these incredible roles that we understand in regards to omega-3. And that is EPA and DHA. You hear so many people say, oh, we don't need to eat fish, just eat some flax seeds and some walnuts packed with omega-3. Well, technically, yes, it's true. They are absolutely jam-packed with omega-3, but omega-3 in the form of ALA. Okay, that is the plant form of omega-3. That needs to go through significant enzymatic conversion in order to be converted into the EPA and DHA that can actually directly feed into some of these key metabolic pathways that I'm going to talk about in a minute.
Wow.
Now, the thing is, human beings are very poor at doing that conversion. You've got about a 3 to 4% conversion of ALA into EPA and about a 0.6% conversion into DHA. The only time that changes is pregnant women that can ramp up the conversion to about 50%. But grazing cattle and fish that swim in the upper layers, i.e. layers that can still get light penetration of the ocean and fresh water as well, they can all do that conversion very, very well. So things like salmon, for example, they eat microplankton, which is rammed full of ALA, and they convert it into EPA and DHA and store it in their tissues. That's why oily fish like salmon are so rich in all of that good stuff. So if you are following a plant-based diet, if you are very, very strict in that respect, you need to get a supplement that's made from algae that contains both EPA and DHA. It used to, I mean, you were able to get vegan DHA for years, but now you can get both EPA and DHA. That way you will be able to have these effects that I'm about to talk about. So that's the soapbox out of the way when it comes to omega-3. But omega-3 is vital for multiple body systems, but in the context of mental health, our neurons, if you look at the neurons, the actual cells within the brain and the nervous system, and the way in which they carry information, the information is in the form of something called an action potential. It's like an electrical signal, isn't it?
Yeah.
You often see it cartoonized as this electrical impulse that gets fired along the length of that cell. Well, nerve cells moving throughout our body, they don't touch. There's like little gaps in between them. That electrical impulse, it kind of jumps along the length of the cell, like something called the axon, which is the body of the neuron. It kind of jumps along, then it gets to the end of that neuron. That electrical signal gets translated into a chemical signal called a neurotransmitter. Different neurotransmitters will carry different messages. That neurotransmitter then jumps, like it leaves one neuron, jumps the gap, like sits in the gap, which is called the synapse. And then the neighboring neuron has a neurotransmitter receptor that detects that signal and then translates that back into an electrical message, and on that message goes. That whole series of events working properly depends upon healthy membranes and structures. Now, along that length, that axon, you'll notice if you look at a diagram of one, it looks like there's lots of little capsules that run along it. And these are little fatty outcroppings of the membrane called the myelin sheath. And you've got these capsules of myelin and little gaps in between them called the nodes of Ranvier. Fantastic names these things are given. And that sequence of structures is essential for carrying the electrical impulse. Now, that fatty structure is composed almost predominantly of DHA. It's DHA, which is one of the omega-3 fatty acids I talked about, and then also another fatty acid called arachidonic acid that we find in animal fats, for example, but can also be synthesized out of omega-6. And with normal day-to-day metabolic activity, these fatty structures can start to get broken down. It's a process called demyelination. And in people with multiple sclerosis, for example, because the immune system is instigating this attack, there's accelerated demyelination. But the body, when there's demyelination, we also have remyelination, providing we've got enough of the building blocks coming in, we can rebuild and replenish the myelin sheath so that that electrical impulse can be carried perfectly. Obviously, in cases like MS, the demyelination is at such a pace that it outpaces remyelination, and in fact that's where you get the degradation over time. But ensuring that you've got a good supply of DHA in your diet will mean that you can constantly be replenishing that myelin sheath so that the electrical impulse is being carried as well as it possibly can. But then I spoke about when that electrical impulse gets to the actual nerve ending, it gets translated into a chemical message. It gets turned into a signal that is carried by neurotransmitters. we've got two things there. Those neurotransmitters, they're in like little bubbles. If you imagine like the end of the neuron, you've got loads of these little endings, by the way, and you've got something which is called a terminal button. And it's like, imagine it's like a little mushroom-like structure at the end of all of these little fronds. And that is where the neurotransmitters live. And they live in these little bubbles called vesicles. And when a certain neurotransmitter realizes that that's the one that's got to carry the signal on, that bubble will move to the end of the membrane, fuse with the membrane, and then spit its contents out into that gap. The membrane has to be really, really supple and healthy and fluid in order for that to occur. EPA is essential for keeping that nice and fluid and for making sure that those neurotransmitters can actually be released into that synaptic space in the right way. But then also those neurotransmitters need to be detected by the receptors in the neighboring neuron. EPA is a key part of receptor structure as well. So by consuming plenty of EPA and DHA, you're ensuring that the electrical impulses are being carried to the best of their potential. You're ensuring that neurotransmitters are being released in the best way possible and that they're actually doing their job most effectively. And now there's been some, I mean, that's just one part of it, right? And also, EPA and DHA provide the building blocks that the body uses to manufacture its own inbuilt anti-inflammatories. These things called prostaglandins, series 1 and series 3 prostaglandins, which reduce inflammation. And then DHA, you've got another group of byproducts called delta resolvins that have an anti-inflammatory activity as well. There's been a lot of data now that's shown that certainly in depression, you've got something called neuroinflammation, where there's actually inflammation within the brain, and that inflammation is part of the pathophysiological process that's causing the changes in the brain that people are experiencing in depression.
Wow.
EPA can really help to pull that inflammation down as well. Good friend of mine, Dr. Alex Richardson, she's actually one of the teachers at my nutrition school. She's and she teaches that as well. She started off at the University of Oxford, and now she's got a charity called Food and Behaviour Research. And she's done loads and loads and loads of work on all of that, on neuroinflammation and mental illness and how Omega-3 comes into it. She's done a lot of work with schizophrenics in prisons and how Omega-3 supplementation made a difference. She's done lots of work with ADHD. It can have a huge impact. So we've talked about getting off processed food. We've talked about Omega-3 fatty acids. The next thing that you need to stock up on are the B vitamins.
Right.
Okay. So the B vitamins, these are essential for the actual synthesis of neurotransmitters. We talked about the job that neurotransmitters do. We talked about the importance of Omega-3 actually assisting them doing that job. They require B vitamins to actually be manufactured in the first place. So that's where we need the whole grains. I talked about giving up the refined carbs like the white bread and the white pasta, but instead swapping for brown rice, pearl barley, quinoa, those kind of things, right? Because they're really rich. I mean, not only have they got loads and loads of fiber and all that good stuff, but they're rich in B vitamins as well. And those help to synthesize the neurotransmitters. Now I'm going to give you one more little nugget, and this is especially useful for anyone that suffers with anxiety. Okay, and let's be fair, with the monumental shit show that is planet Earth in 2024, I'm pretty sure we've all got it to one extent or another. But for people where anxiety is a problem, and I'm seeing more and more people in practice with these issues, magnesium can be an absolute lifesaver. The reason being is magnesium actually helps the brain to secrete higher amounts of a neurotransmitter called GABA. GABA is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. So with obviously there's things like serotonin and all the rest of it that affects mood and all sorts of other odds and sods. But there's some neurotransmitters that are what we call excitatory. So glutamate, for example, that makes us really, kind of focus and take notice and, be really on it and really ready for action. And then we've got inhibitory neurotransmitters like GABA. What that will do is it doesn't make you feel drugged. It doesn't make you feel tranquilized. What it does, it just calms the mental chatter. So when the mind is just racing and racing and racing, it's building momentum and it's going and it's going and it's going. It won't shut up and it's coming from, kind of me in an interview. It just helps to wind that in. It just helps to pull that back. It just helps to calm that down. and it gives you that centered focus. So you can just calm down for a second and get yourself back to center. That's what GABA does. And magnesium, I mean, from a dietary point of view, you would get it from green leafy vegetables. That's top of the list. Also from oily fish, from whole grains, but you can take a supplement. Something like magnesium threonate is a really, really good one, because you can take higher doses without it causing digestive upsets. That's one of my favorites. That can be fantastic for anxiety. It's symptomatic relief.
Yeah.
It doesn't get rid of your triggers. It doesn't get rid of, like, the mental cues that can take you into that place, but it can stop it being severe. And it can be something that you can have it in your pocket, you can have it in your bag. If you feel this stuff coming on, take some magnesium and it will get you out of that place.
Does it work that quickly? Does it?
20 to 25 minutes.
Really? Wow. I didn't realize it worked that fast.
So obviously it's not acute. If you're right in the full throes of a panic attack, it ain't going to move the needle instantly. But if you take it, you know that you're going to be able to get through the other side.
I find that so interesting, especially the stuff around the fatty acids, because it's in direct conflict with the whole weight loss culture, where you're encouraged to eat less fat. I won't say any names, but there are certain health clubs or diet clubs, whatever, and they tell you to strip fat away. And
listen, fats are absolutely essential. If you want to see what a lifetime of a low fat diet does to you, just go to Beverly Hills and see the aging population. It just looks like someone drew a face on a scrotum. I mean, they just look terrible. It's just we need these fats in our diet, man. Seriously, they're absolutely essential. So just for us blokes, for example, right? These fats are the building blocks for testosterone. Yeah. So if you want chronic depression and a shrunken Duncan, then you go on a low fat diet. Yeah. But if you actually want to still operate, if you want that hormone to be pumping through your veins, you need the right type of fats in your diet. It's absolutely sensible that we don't overdo the wrong types of fats. Trans fats, too much omega-6. Don't go mental with saturated fat. Saturated fat is good for you, but don't go mental with it, because saturated fats often contain arachidonic acid, that thing I spoke about earlier, that whilst it's essential for maintaining structure of the myelin sheath, an excess of it can actually, I also spoke about prostaglandins, those anti-inflammatory things. There's a second one. We've got series 1, series 2, series 3. Well, series 2, that's the one that pushes inflammation up. Excesses of arachidonic acid can upregulate that. So you don't want to go mad with certain things, but you want healthy fats in your diet. I would rather say to someone, wind back on the carbs and have more healthy fats and protein and non-starchy vegetables than anything else. These fats are absolutely vital.
See, that's funny, because I love the way you explain things, and I can hear somebody now saying, "Oh, so basically what you're saying is go keto," or it's like, no, I'm not saying that, And I just want to make that really clear.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, absolutely. You know what I mean? If you've got a wedding coming up and you want to get into a certain outfit, if you've got a holiday coming up and and you want to look better on the beach, keto can be amazing. It can absolutely give you results. In the long term, there's potentially issues. People that come into my clinic that are metabolically unwell, people that are really, really in a serious place, I'll put them on a keto diet just to get some metabolic changes happening, and then we'll put them on a more sort of sustainable maintenance program.
I love the way you're moving towards that individualization, and that's something I really want to not hammer home, but just really make that point clear, because at the end of all of that, I mean, first of all, that was the best explanation. That answer was incredible, the absolutely incredible answer, and I loved every second of that. But what that comes down to at the end of it is your decision-making process, your decision fatigue, how much effort you're able to put in cognitively, the attitude that you might have because you've got low tolerance. And that's how it looks in real life. And that can be supported by cutting out the processed foods, by introducing fatty acids, by making sure that the B vits are right, and then obviously that magnesium. And they are relatively, I don't want to say simple fixes, but if you started to introduce them into your lifestyle over time, making them a habit, having salmon once a week, whatever, then it will make a significant difference in the macro, like you said before.
It's a very simple intervention. And the thing is, people often say to me, well, if it's that easy, why isn't everyone doing it? I was like, I haven't got a fucking clue, but they're not.
It's the education again, isn't it?
Why isn't everyone eating a whole foods diet? Do you know what I mean? Because the people that do adopt it, eat a whole foods diet, try to go to bed early, be a little bit active. You don't have to be doing like 1,000 burpees a day and chucking lorry tires around. And just go for a walk every morning. These simple things can make a massive difference, but most people don't do any of it.
No, sorry, I just need cancel the lorry tires. Yeah, just. No, I just thought we just ordered some, so I thought, save you some time. No, I love that. So I'm grateful for that.
No,
'Cause,
I always say to my trainer, I was just like, look, I don't mind battle ropes.
Yeah.
All right with that. You get me to do a burpee, mate, and there'll be a 2-word answer. And you know what one of those words will be. I just will not do them for love nor money.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not throwing my 47-year-old carcass to the floor. That ain't happening.
Yeah,
I mean?
I'm
It's
not
just
a fan.
Like, I'll let the 20-year-olds do that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either, and I like that. I feel validated. I feel validated in that. I've got like a quick fire thing. I think you've kind of answered it really. But quick fire questions is what nutritional advice I put it out on my groups and stuff like that, and a lot of people wanted nutritional advice around 4 main things. The first one was they're hearing everything about gut health and immunity and all of these different things, and there's so much conflicting information. So is there any sort of real simple quick advice that you can give? You're like, oh, cheers, Johnny, about gut health and immunity?
Conflicting information in the nutrition field. Well, like my boots and call me Charlie. I've never seen that. You know what? It happens all the time. But one of the things I really hate, right? There is this pervasive statement that you hear all the time. It's like, all disease begins in the gut. It's like, no, it doesn't. So yeah. Gut-related diseases begin in the gut. Cardiovascular disease doesn't begin in the gut. Yeah, the microbiome can influence elements of cardiovascular health, but some things start in the gut, some things don't. And we need to get out of this all or nothing mindset. We've mentioned this several times today, but it's like, in terms of general gut health, and this is another one because some people can't tolerate some of these amazing foods, but ultimately, again, as unglamorous as it sounds, it's getting towards a whole foods diet. Because if you want a healthy gut, really you want a healthy microbiome. You want a healthy, diverse microbiome and everything that the microbiome regulates. And how do you get a healthy and diverse microbiome? You need a good, broad, diverse whole foods diet. You need loads of fruit, veg, nuts, seeds, whole grains, legumes, all of those good things. They provide loads of different types of fiber. Those different types of fiber act as a food source for the microbiome. I mean, obviously we've heard of probiotics, like the actual living cultures that you get in bloody horrible drinks or in like little capsules and that kind of stuff. But you've got prebiotics as well. You've got these fibers that are a food source for the microbiome. Essentially, they're very, very complex carbohydrates. Most simple carbohydrates are broken down by pancreatic enzymes. So something, you've got a little bit of mechanical breakdown when we chew it. Not much happens in the stomach. That's predominantly protein digestion. But then once a meal gets into the small intestine, pancreatic enzymes and then some other enzymes further down in the gut will break down the simplest carbohydrates. But obviously you've got some that's left over, some of these more complex ones that we would call fiber. When these get to the gut, you can get another maybe 10, 15, 20% breakdown as well. And it's a process called saccharolytic fermentation, where the actual bacterial colony in the gut will start to break down some of these sugars by a fermentation process. That fermentation process is actually incredibly healthy. Firstly, you get bacterial replication. So the bacterial population will start to reproduce and you get more of them. You'll get an increase in microbial diversity as well. So different strains, each different strain will do a different job. And we know that these effects are systemic as well. It's not just in the gut, it can be body-wide, but via the gut, which is where things get mind-bended. But also you get byproducts released from that. You get short-chain fatty acids released from that fermentation process. 3 really well-known ones. We've got acetate, butyrate, and propionate. Now, butyrate, for example, that will actually stimulate healing and repair within the gut wall. So it'll help to keep the mucus layer, which is what the microbial colony actually stick to. It helps to keep that healthy. It helps to keep the tight junctions healthy, which is like the tight junctions are bands of protein that pull our enterocytes, the cells of the gut wall together and keep that. It's almost like a gateway that stops anything moving through the gut and getting into the body, keeps all of that healthy. And then propionate, that gets into the central nervous system and helps to regulate appetite. So that whole process is really, really essential. The way to make sure that that's happening, the way to make sure that microbiome is flourishing, a good, diverse, whole foods diet. For most people, that's absolutely fine. When you first adopt a whole foods diet, by the way, when you've gone from like a standard Western diet of more processed foods and you just move over to a whole foods diet, your gut may feel like warfare. It's probably the only real apt way to describe it, because you've got that fermentation, because the bacterial colony isn't quite developed yet, isn't fully able to handle that much fiber. You know what I'm saying, right? I mean, you get a lot of bloating and distension and all the good things that come with that, but you've got to stick with it because the magic's the other side, right? And it is a transient thing. Like the colony will adapt pretty quickly. And what's the other side of that is...
So that is temporary.
It is temporary,
right?
For most people. There are some people that can't tolerate certain substances, like some people can't tolerate FODMAPs, for example. For people that don't know what FODMAPs are, that stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. Now, the oligosaccharides and the disaccharides, these are the oligosaccharides, these are the large things that we're talking about, these very, very large things that go through this like fermentation process. But also disaccharides, very, very simple sugars that will actually trigger fermentation. Monosaccharides, individual sugars that can do it. And polyols, these are like alcohol sugars, i.e. your artificial sweeteners. You know, when you get like 0-calorie drinks and stuff, all of those things can cause no end of chaos and upset to people. In that case, you need to work with a professional. You need to work with a practitioner that is a FODMAP specialist to kind of get you around that one. But in general, if you want to look after the health of the gut, it's that long-term, good, broad, whole foods diet that's going to make the difference.
Man, makes sense. I mean, I asked that specifically because you're absolutely right. There'd be some people that, I don't know, a big one fashionable at the moment is things like kimchi. So people introduce,
food, yeah,
and then they'll get that stomach fluttering. Let's say,
walk on water. Do you know what I mean? It's going to support the health of the gut. I mean, it's just fermented cabbage. I mean, it's quite hard to get excited about that.
Yeah,
you know, but it's lovely.
Yeah. But it's that thing of it being temporary, because some people, you know, it's not a night. Like I know you're alluding to, you know, they're starting getting flatulence and stomach cramps and all that sort of stuff, and it can be embarrassing and everything. But in the long term, it's beneficial to gut health and internal immunity. So I just wanted to highlight that. The next one on the list that was big was sleep. And I know you mentioned magnesium, and there's a lot of stuff around magnesium and sleep. I mean, I won't, you know, I'm about to ask a question and answer it.
Sleep is my nemesis.
Really? Okay.
Sleep is my nemesis. I don't know whether it's an age thing. I don't know whether it's a change in hormonal profiles at the minute, but my sleep is shot to pieces at the minute.
Interesting.
And, you know, I've been trying to go to every trick in the book, and it's bad. I think I had a great night's sleep, and obviously I use an Aura ring, and I'll check the app in the morning, and it's like, needs attention. I'm like, you know. But,
getting gaslit by Aura.
Yeah, exactly. So, cheers. But in general, magnesium can be very, very helpful. Again, because of that GABA elevation. Tryptophan, like there's an amino acid tryptophan that you can either take as a supplement, or you can have a protein-rich food with a little bit of carbohydrate 45 minutes before bed. That particular amino acid, when you've got a gentle glucose spike to actually catapult it across the blood-brain barrier, will convert into serotonin. And serotonin will convert into melatonin when the eyes detect darkness. So that's why sleep masks can be so beneficial, because it gives you that extra level of darkness. So you get that extra. Mask. Yeah, I mean, it took me a while to get used to it.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'll probably give offensive people here, but, you know, life's tough. Get a helmet. It's that's to quote the wonderful Candy So in there. But it's like during the whole COVID thing, like when they said masks, I was just like, not a chance. Not a snowball chance in hell. I went onto Amazon and ordered a lanyard. I was just like, not doing it, not complying with the nonsense, because I hate anything where I feel constricted. It's not. It wasn't just me being like a recalcitrant dick. It's that like, I do actually get like really, really bad claustrophobia. Anything that I feel is restricting me or restraining me, and I just lose my mind. But I know the benefits that you get from a sleep mask, so it took me forever to get used to it. Like I do like half an hour before bed, just giving it a try to get used to it, and then eventually kind of got into wearing it. I do find that it makes a difference.
It does.
That and the old silicone earplugs.
Yeah, same. I got them loop ones. They're the most comfortable I found, and I because I'm so swanky, I upgraded to a luxury mask with padding. So
I get you.
yeah, I know. I'm very
Yeah,
posh.
I tell you what, you're going to get one that massages your temples next.
My
isn't it?
son's got one of those. It's ridiculous. He's actually got one. It's like, well, what age am I living in? I know, it's great. He asked me for Christmas. I was like, are you sure? It was bizarre.
Wow.
But I know. Very, very strange. But I mean, there's stuff that you can add in for sleep, but is there any obvious things you can remove as well? Obviously caffeine.
Caffeine after midday.
Yeah.
For most people.
Oh, if I talk about caffeine, I'm going to be awake tonight just from talking about caffeine after midday. That's how it works for me.
Yeah, I know. A strong coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Like black coffee in the morning. And then I'll usually have a green tea. And green tea earlier. Of the old Lord of the Cats mug there.
Nice.
About mid-morning. That's it. Any more than that. And
You know when you've got old, right? When you have to actually think about when you can have caffeine. That's the thing. Like I explained it to my nephew the other day, and I could just see him switching off. Like he just didn't get it at all. He's just like, "What are we talking about?" But he's there smashing a double espresso at 3 p.m. in the afternoon because he's going to the gym. I'm like, I can't even watch you do that, so I'll stay away. I can smell the coffee, and it's bad. Yeah. So caffeine. Anything else?
Just wait till we get the other side of 45.
Yeah. I can't wait for him to do that. I'm going to be on him at that point. Yeah.
I told you.
Yeah, that's it. I'm already there, I think. But so caffeine, anything else that you can remove, like sugary stuff like that, maybe?
It was quite interesting because I was listening to Chris Evans the other day, and they were talking about saying, they'll try this thing where they're avoiding carbohydrates in the evening because apparently you get a better sleep. I would actually counter that. I would say that's probably the best time of the day to have a heavier carb meal because you do get that that extra influx of amino acids across the blood-brain barrier. That elevation in glucose, so there's two reasons for it. That elevation in glucose will push some of those neurotransmitters across the blood-brain barrier, but also it will keep your blood glucose at a healthy concentration through the night. If blood glucose dips, our body needs to rely on glycogen immediately. And one of the things that actually stimulates the release of glucagon, which is the hormone that mobilizes glycogen, is cortisol. Right. So you will get a cortisol spike and it'll wake you up. Yeah. So I will say to people, it's like, right, try carb backloading. So it's not saying like you skip carbs for the rest of the day, but like the time when you're eating the most amount of carbohydrates is with your evening meal, and see the difference that makes. And that definitely does make a difference to me. Yeah. I mean, so at the minute I'll average about 6.5 hours sleep. Right. And this is me on. I had a bad night's sleep last night.
According to Aura.
I still function. I can still operate. It's just without my glasses on, I look like a mole that's been poked in the eye. But it's more the aesthetics. Yeah. Why I'm worried about that, I don't know. But it certainly does seem to be making a difference to me that shift in the carb intake throughout the day. Yeah. But then, also room temperature. Like it
hydration as well. I find myself getting up for a wee at 3 o'clock, so therefore I try to sort of watch what I drink before bed and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I don't know how old are you?
43, 44 this year.
All right, so you're approaching the zone now. Yeah. Where the old, where you've got to keep your eye on the prostate as well.
Oh yeah, mate.
That's just facts, though, man. That's like
my sons mug me off all the time. They'll hear me and Lulu go for a wee, and I'll go, What's wrong with you? Why is there so much like stopping and starting? I'm like, don't. And I always get jealous of their flow. If I hear him in the morning, I'm like, all right. Yeah. It's not good at all.
Just you wait, son.
Yeah. You don't want to wish them like, but at the same time, it's like, come on, man.
Listen, mate, it's a rite of passage.
It is.
And it happens.
It's true. It's so true.
It happens, and then after that, you have. Plummeting sea levels to look forward to. So you know what I mean? It's like it's really bizarre like how much you take for granted when you're in like your 20s and 30s.
Yeah, but this is it.
You can't be like this forever.
You just not, are you? You just not, and you notice things and you're like, come on now, this isn't fair. And like the sons are just rubbing it in at this point. But and then the last one on the rapid thing is sort of like mood and energy, really. Some quick wins on that one. Any sort of quick wins on mood?
Well,
and
I think so. All the stuff that I spoke about in relation to mental health, that's got to apply to mood.
Yeah.
So like the fatty acids, the B vitamins, getting off of the processed food, focusing on whole foods. But then one of the things in there will cross over into energy as well, and that's the B vitamins. The B vitamins are vital for actually the manufacture of ATP. ATP, adenosine triphosphate, that's what our cells run on. Glucose gets fed into two different biochemical pathways. Anyone that studied this will know what an absolute monumental nut cruncher this is to actually study. But you've got the Krebs cycle, and then you've got the electron transport chain, right? And those are the two pathways that create ATP. And for the Krebs cycle, the first stage, the B vitamins are essential because you see NADH and FADH, nicotine, adenine dinucleotide, so that's niacin, flavin, adenine dinucleotide, that's riboflavin. So those are two important B vitamins. A good B complex will make a massive difference, will definitely give you a little bit more energy. If you also take some coenzyme Q10, that is the essential cofactor in the second stage, the electron transport chain. So you're going to have much more effective ATP synthesis by taking those two. But those are useless if your diet shit.
Yeah.
Right. You've got to do that on top of the good foundations. What you're doing is fine tuning good foundations. Put kerosene in a Mini and call it a Ferrari. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's the same deal. You've got to get the fundamentals right. But then by adding the B vitamins as a good B complex, something like a B100 complex, just get off Amazon, right? And some coenzyme Q10. That'll be very good.
I was speaking to someone the other day, and they actually got told they needed B vitamin injections from the doctor because it was such a low level, which I found incredible.
B12? Would that be
I
B12?
think it was, yeah. Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, that's fairly common if someone's depleted.
Yeah.
Because if you're seriously depleted, you run the risk of pernicious anemia, where the red blood cells are actually malformed, and that is not fun, let me tell you.
No. Well, the way that symptoms came up for them was like, it was mood and just really battling with their mental health and just real sort of like just fatigue and stuff like that. So it was really interesting. I was standing on the side of the rugby pitch having the conversation. Like, it was really interesting to hear that it gets to that level. Look, this has been an incredible conversation. I've learned so much. I've got literally stacks of notes on this bit of paper and all that sort of stuff. But there was one more thing. If we got like a quick answer on it, I'll ask it. You know, if you think it's a bit more long-winded, maybe we'll do it again on a live or something. But a lot of the time people hear about inflammation, and obviously people relate that to, I don't know, an inflamed knee or something like that. But when it comes to what you're referring to as inflammation, what exactly are you talking about, and what are the issues and concerns around it?
You've got two types of inflammation. You've got acute, which is the thing that saves your life. So like if you whack your thumb with a hammer, or if you get an infection and the area of infection is red and hot and painful, that's the inflammation that saves your life, right? And that's perfectly healthy response. But then you've got acute inflammation, which is inflammation that is just kind of bubbling away in the background over time. That's the stuff that can damage tissues in the long term. That's the stuff that's related to degenerative disease, cardiovascular disease, certain types of cancers, for example. That's the one that you want to try and regulate. And you do that really by staying active, whole foods diet, and then things like omega-3 fatty acids can really keep that in a healthy space.
Perfect. Sounds like we covered that as well then. Brilliant. I know it's nice because I get, you know, I knew, gathered from our conversation that you'd have a good explanation for that. Thank you so much for this, mate. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Like I said, I got a whole page full of notes. But just one last thing. Is there anything that you'd like to pass along to people that you feel would help them with their self-development?
It is one thing. It is a one thing approach. It's like, just change one thing.
Love that.
If you're looking to make big changes in your diet, don't think that you're going to go from living on Domino's to being like a raw food yogi overnight. It ain't going to happen. Okay. Choose one thing that you know that you can change straight away, that isn't going to be a ball ache, that isn't going to be really, really uncomfortable, that is sensible. So let's say it's, okay, I'm going to make sure that one meal a day is a good home cooked meal. I'm going to make sure that one of my meals is based around a salad. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to stop snacking on chocolate and instead snack on fresh fruit. Whatever it is, one single thing, change one thing, then repeat it over and over and over and over again until it becomes the norm. Then carry on doing that, but add another thing. Think, right, okay, what's the thing that I can change next? This is not normal now. This is just something I do.
Yeah.
So what's the next thing that I can add in? And repeat and repeat and repeat. That's going to seem like baby steps. But when you look back over 6 or 12 months, you'll realize that your lifestyle's changed dramatically, but it's not been a massive challenge to get there, and it's actually sustainable.
Yeah, love that. Thank you, brother. I appreciate this. Just want to let people know where they can find you. Anything you want to draw their attention to before we go?
Yeah, so my main website is dalepinnock.com, and Instagram is probably my most active platform, and just as a medicinal chef. Yeah, you'll get signposted to any other bits that I'm up to through either of those two.
Brilliant. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for battling through after, a horrendous bout of man flu. We're not going to say cold. We're going to label this a bit more,
I know, man. I mean, I'm drowning in sympathy cards. It's mad.
I doubt that. No, mate, thank you so much. And love to do this again one day.